In December 2015, we wrote on a whiteboard, if we hit these markers in the next 6 to 7 years, we would call it a success. And I went back and checked everything we wrote on that whiteboard. We've hit all of them.
AI is no more a science fiction thing. It's a reality, and there's no escaping it. So I think India needs to be prepared, and otherwise we'll be left behind.
The next 10 years, I think there are huge opportunities in healthcare. I think there is education, especially in a country like India. I think you can really improve education.
Binny, so if you were a student today, what's one subject or skill that you would love to master? So we have with us today Mr. Neeraj Aggarwal, who's the chair of Boston Consulting Group Asia, and he's also the chair of Board of Trustees at Plaksha. Neeraj is shaping the future of business and technology across the world, though perhaps he's slightly lesser famous than Diljit Dosanjh on the global stage. We also have with us Mr. Harish Shah, who's the founder and former managing director at Signet Capital, where he drove efficiency and efficacy throughout the pharmaceutical world. He's also a prominent Indian philanthropist and a business leader, serving as a director of Harish and Binny Shah Foundation. The foundation focuses on education, healthcare, livelihood across many other callings. We are also joined by Mr. Binny Bansal, who's the co-founder of Flipkart and a key role in the growth story of e-commerce in India. Today, he's an active investor and a startup mentor. Through X to 10X, Binny continues to support emerging startups across sectors in India. So congratulations, everybody, on raising 1,500 CR till date to set up Plaksha. And also congratulations on the inauguration of School of AI and Computer Science at Plaksha. So jumping into it, Plaksha's journey started in 2015 as a conversation among a few friends. How about and why technology education needs to change? Now over 100 plus tech entrepreneurs have joined the journey. So can you just elaborate on this mission of Plaksha?
I think the intent of Plaksha was to say that there is something fundamental in education which needs to be reimagined. And technology is going to shape the world of tomorrow. So those two factors are very clear. The technology will shape the world, and higher education in this area needs to be reimagined. We've had a generation of IITs and others which came in the 60s, 70s. That playbook needs to be adapted to the world of today. So that was a core thing, and we said if we reimagine, we need to reimagine every aspect. Which students we bring in, what we teach, how we teach, every aspect of it. And the intersection also of education and research. So that was the intent. And that's what we started with, really speaking. And yes, of course, the idea was to bring the best minds across various fields. And that's why we are so proud of the 100-odd people who are now associated with the effort.
How nice. And now that Plaksha University is entering into the next phase of growth, reflecting on the decade since the initial blueprint was conceived, what has been the 3 most significant achievements? And what are the key areas and projects where the board wants to focus in the future in terms of infrastructure or research?
So one small funny anecdote, at 2015, there was a whiteboard at the end of 2015, December 2015, we wrote on a whiteboard, if we hit these markers in the next 6 to 7 years, we would call it a success. And I went back and checked everything we wrote on that whiteboard, we've hit all of them. So that means we, to write it at that time, so that's a napkin or whatever, napkin moment for Plaksha. But I think the 3 things to be most proud of, one is the kind of talent melting pot it has become. Talent in terms of the founding group, the talent in terms of the faculty, but also the talent in terms of the students. And that is the trioca we wanted to get going. And we genuinely couldn't be more excited about that because that is the foundational element for everything we want to accomplish of now. The second thing is we had said we will want great outcomes on a variety of topics. One is this talent. It's one thing for us to feel good about it. The recruiters of tomorrow and the, whatever higher education they want to go to, they should find them exciting. And the feedback we got from the first batch, which is graduating now, from the recruiters, is remarkable. Some of the most marquee logos are now recruiting from on the campus. Some of them, 20% of them are pursuing higher education, and they're getting calls from some of the best universities across the world. So I think that is mission accomplished as well. And the third one is we wanted to set the template which we felt was unparalleled, which is what was the initial credo. And I think on that, the progress we made in the early days on research, on the topics like, which are going to be foundational topics for tomorrow, like AI, which we are now embarking on in a very major way, is something which is very exciting. And I think it's the start of a journey which will hugely multiply in times to come.
How nice. So building on the topic of AI, we are also inaugurating a School of AI today. So Mr. Harish, what impact do you think Plaksha University's School of AI will have on India's tech and research ecosystem? and how will it prepare the students for an AI-driven future?
So considering that now AI is no more a science fiction thing, it's a reality, and there's no escaping it. So I think India needs to be prepared otherwise we'll be left behind. So it is absolutely imperative that AI education really become mainstream in Indian colleges, and we develop a world-class talent pool of AI engineers, because I think the problems of India are so complex that only humans, manpower will not be able to solve them. Now that we have such a powerful way of expediting several social challenges, I think Plaksha is going to play a big role in nurturing this ecosystem and where we develop world-class AI engineers.
And just to double click into that question a little bit, Neeraj, how do you think the team is ensuring that the curriculum remains agile year on a year and is closely aligned with the latest advancements happening in the world of AI and also at large other innovations?
So when we started Plaksha, we toured the world on the best educational institutions. So we picked MIT, Harvard, Purdue, Berkeley, Stanford to see where the art and science of education is. And MIT had this report on the future of engineering education. We poured through that and said, look, we want to, and actually when we went to them, they were so excited that you're setting up a greenfield university. They said, we wish we had the luxury of setting something greenfield. So the one other great thing was some of the best brains in these places became part of our academic advisory board in the very early days. And in the last 6 to 7 years, they have given us, every quarter they give us 2 days of their time. And they have been part of shaping the curriculum in the early days, but they've been we literally had a meeting last Thursday with them on reviewing how far we've come and how we stay agile. So it's a very continuous process because the world is innovating fast. We have the best minds from abroad, but now also our own insights into this, and we know what has worked well, and we know where there's room for improvement, and we are continuously on that journey.
Right. And of course, talking about the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, of course, we also want to mention, so Binny, you have basically during Flipkart seen a turning point in the Indian startup ecosystem. So if you were a student today, what key elements would you look for in an education institute?
Yeah, I think from an education institute today, I think one of the key things as a student, if I look back at what could have accelerated my startup journey at Flipkart, would be sort of a focus on a more interdisciplinary aspect of things, not just being very focused on the hard skills, the hard tech stuff, but also bring in sort of the liberal arts, liberal sciences, and also other disciplines. Like you're not just focused on your department, which was for me, it was computer science, but you are also doing stuff across mechanical or chemical. You're bringing multiple disciplines into real world problem solving. I think the combination of all of that would be, I think, quite helpful.
So if I were to summarize, basically building a more holistic sort of ecosystem where you not just talk about technology in silo, but mix it with liberal arts. And
also just to add to what Neeraj and Binny said, I think the other two key words are going to be flexible and adaptable. Because I think it's a rapidly evolving way of technological advancement. So I think as and when the world changes and new ways of doing things happen, I think the university will have to have this in their ecosystem as to how to quickly adapt to rapidly evolving technology.
I mean, in a way, we're trying to stretch both the left brain and the right brain part of the, and that's that is actually takes a lot of thinking to do, but if done well, is truly magical.
Yeah, and like the point on flexibility, I think that would really help the students also figure out discover what they want to do, what they're good at, and double down on those things versus versus doing what everybody else is doing.
And we are the only educational institution which does not force you to take a major on the day you show up. You have 18 months of common curriculum, and at the end of the day, you go with and every multidisciplinary department or group will make a pitch, and then you make your choice.
So it's a more liberated way of sort of getting closer to what you want to study. At the same time, I also want to touch upon the foundation. Mr. Harish, you run a foundation by the name of Harish and Binny Shah, and it has been a key driver in impact across multiple sectors. Education, healthcare, gender equity, arts being one of them. and on that too with a partnership across 80 non-profits. So could you share the foundation's vision, the core ideas behind it, and the impact it hopes to create in the future?
Yeah, so I think as a foundation, we took a conscious decision not to be aligned to any one cause. We adopted a wide brush because we believe that everything has an impact, whether it's the arts and culture or education or livelihood or what have you. So the way we approach is try and locate good organizations working in those specific spaces, and instead of reinventing the wheel, supporting their efforts. So our vision is really not to be aligned in any one specific area, but to see wherever we can make a positive impact. So we establish clear goals once we identify the organization, and then further their efforts.
And stemming from this, I wanted to talk about collective philanthropy.
Can I just add one thing? I
Please,
think
please.
what they are embarking on as a foundation is truly exemplary. I think they are a true North Star, and I feel, so the reason I really feel excited is it's not just what the foundation is doing, the multiplier of how it will inspire many others to do it in the future. I think it will be the true impact. So it will not only what they will do, but they'll inspire many others to emulate. I think that's
Right, I think the network effect is what we sort
absolutely.
of look forward to.
We've also been impacted by people like him and many others. So I think it's a two-way street.
So I think a perfect moment to talk about collective philanthropy. So how do you think, Harish, can strategic philanthropy drive meaningful change in education in India? And what is the long-term impact do you vision from sort of collectively giving in higher education?
So I think when you bunch together good intentions, the result is always better. So because everybody brings something else to the table. It's not just money. Some people bring in experience. Some people bring in talent. Some people bring in money. Some people, so I think when you bunch, you put everything, a quiver of arrows, you bunch them together, it has a far more beneficial effect and expedites the process of really creating final solutions. So I think collective philanthropy is multifarious in its approach.
And Neeraj, how do you see the future of collective philanthropy sort of evolving in Indian setup? And especially what are the lessons that we can learn from the global players such as Stanford or MIT, who sort of manage a very large endowment fund?
So firstly, the metaphor I use for collective philanthropy is like each of us is like a face of a diamond. But so each is important, but collective is more important. That's when the diamond truly shines, when it's the interface of all the faces. So that's the intersection we're trying to create, and that's a jugalbandi, if I may, we want to create. I am incredibly excited. There are so many problems to solve in India and so many causes. And I think this is actually, to be honest, the West doesn't have the right metaphor for it. I think what we are trying to do in India is world shaping. And I think this will be an exemplar from Plaksha and other institutions which have done this before. I would say ISB and Ashoka are the other two foremost examples of that. I think this is India's gift to the world. I feel this will multiply manifold. And today we are talking about Plaksha, and in times to come there will be others who will also, other causes which will get inspired by that. ACT, for example, has been one, in making some real impact during the COVID times, and some others. So I feel the possibilities are just enormous and endless.
And just to build on that further, Binny, how do you think startups play a role in shaping university research? And how can Plaksha serve as a bridge between academia and the startup world, sort of leveraging the board that we have?
Yeah. So if you look at the startup ecosystem today, there are now a lot of startups working sort of at the in areas where you need to either build or apply cutting edge technology, and without that sort of deep technology insight or innovation, they won't really be very successful. And I think that's where really deep collaboration, partnership, and work between universities like Plaksha and the startups can be a win-win, big win-win for both of them. And in many different areas, obviously AI being one of them. But if you take EVs, if you take in areas like healthcare, I think there are just so many areas, as Neeraj said, that a lot of innovation can happen.
Right, and from a student lens, right, because you have been in a vantage point where you can see you've seen e-commerce, fintech, AI evolve over the years. What emerging sectors for future do you think students should focus on in terms of just being curious, reading out research papers, or maybe just keeping up with the news?
Yeah, I think the sectors of sort of the past were, as you said, e-commerce, fintech, and maybe software SaaS. I think if I look at the next 10 years, I think there are huge opportunities in healthcare with AI, which become open, huge problems that can be solved. Then I think there is education, especially in a country like India. I think you can really improve education with technology today. And then I would say
I think
robotics.
advanced manufacturing, robotics,
Exactly.
is,
And the last one, manufacturing robotics. I think how do you sort of merge AI with atoms and create value from that? I think those three would be the new ones, I would say.
And Neeraj, a question for you. So BCG's annual sustainability report recently highlighted that Plaksha University's commitment to reimagining technology education in India. Could you also elaborate on research centers that we are sort of working in within Plaksha and addressing which are key, sort of closely addressing climate change and the transition to the renewable energy?
So we thought long and hard about which areas we want to do research in, and we chose 4. Why did we choose these 4? Because they were very important for India. We felt Plaksha as a leading university of tomorrow, and with the kind of heft it has, these are the kind of problems it should attack. So one was the whole topic of sustainability, and that's the one you're calling out, which is very important in our world of today. Second was using the power of technology in agriculture, so we call smart agriculture. Using all these techniques to make our agriculture, the next green revolution, if I may, using that. The third is personalized and equitable healthcare. Binny talked about the fact that the world of healthcare is going to evolve in the next decade, and I think we have to play a real dent in that. The fourth one is on the topic of water security. Water is going to be one of the biggest problems of the tomorrow, both in availability of water, but in the pollutants in the water. Punjab, for example, has a lot of arsenic contaminants in the water, and this is another area where we feel the technology can play a real role in all of these aspects.
Working on water allows you to sort of also do migration across the country better, where tier 2, tier 3 cities can welcome sort of corporates and sort of more and more people because of the city being more hospitable to the masses at large.
Yeah, in general, I think the water problem needs a fundamental technological approach. We have not done that. We don't even know what our aqueducts are in the country. We have some primitive technologies to map our water below the earth as well. Desalination. So there's a whole science to water which needs to be applied, which needs to be taken to the next level.
Right. And in the near future, do you see Plaksha evolving into a premier institution comparable to IITs in India? And what unique advantages from whatever you mentioned so far, of course, but what else do you think will attract the top talent in India to leave an IIT and come join Plaksha?
I think Plaksha will create its own playbook, right? It will reimagine tech education, which is relevant in the world of tomorrow. It will do it in a fashion which has not been done before. So we are absolutely clear, there's a clear need for Plaksha, and Plaksha's ambitions are clear to be one of the best in the world. And that will mean I think the competition today is not just the IITs, but also some of the others in the world. And students have full choices, and we want to offer something which is relevant education for tomorrow, and which is as attractive, if not better, right? So that's what. And I remember going to China in 2012 and going to some of the best universities that time. Some of the work being done that time is resulting in the output China is showing today. So a lot can happen in a decade. And I'm really looking forward to a really exciting decade in which Plaksha will shape the future for India as well.
So I have a small surprise for you, but before that, I'll just wrap up with my last question with Binny. So Binny, if you were designing an entrepreneurial program at Plaksha, what would you want its core pillars to be?
I think the core pillars for an entrepreneurial program here would be really to add very, very strong mentorship support from other startup entrepreneurs who have sort of been there, done that. Because I think I'm assuming Plaksha will be sort of at the cutting edge of technology education and technology research. Now, how do you merge that in different fields? How do you bring founders from all the different sort of segments of industry and help sort of the students co-ideate on ideas in those industries of applications of the technologies they are learning or they're researching in Plaksha. And then also not just ideating, also I think once they agree on an idea, also helping them apply and implement for the prototyping as well. So I think it's I would sort of look at getting sort of the best mentoring and also getting a good idea selection process as a core pillar, and then really the core is about doing. So
Right.
I think helping them sort of go from the idea to some prototype. Yeah.
Right. I think we are already at a very unique advantage where our board comes from across the industries. And looking forward to, I think, setting up a entrepreneurial program soon. So I want to move into a rapid fire round now. So we'll take it from left to right approach.
That's not our strength.
So every question I ask, we can start from Binny and then we can move on to Neeraj. That helps. So I have 7 questions. The first one is, which is the one book that has deeply influenced your perspective?
I would say Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. I think that was definitely a book which informed a lot of my perspective about how to build startups.
At what point of your journey did you read that?
I think much after starting Flipkart, I think into the Flipkart journey, but that reshaped a little bit of my perspective for running Flipkart, but also as an investor and a mentor to other founders. I think it really taught me a lot.
For you?
So I have to confess, I've never read a book on business. But a book that I read way back when I was in college was a book called The Bridge on the Drina, where the central character is a bridge. And so it spawned off my love for history. And ever since, I've been a history buff. So I consider that book as very kind of seminal in my journey.
How nice. And for you?
Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. About, it truly exposes the power of human brain and how it is both lazy and so versatile. And I'm reading currently The Age of Intelligence, which is very different, but explains how brain has also evolved. So I'm very obsessed with that idea.
And which is the one business leader that you look up to the most, and what's the lesson that you've learned from their journey?
I think today it would be, Satya Nadella, Microsoft. And I think what I really find inspiring is, one, he took this very large company, which was sort of not going anywhere, and made it, became almost like the second founder, and has really come into a large company and played a founder-like role. I think that's been super inspiring to see.
Nice. And for you?
I think for me, there are several, but I think Uday Kotak is one person I admire very much. He's a clear thinker, he's frank, and he has never deviated from an ethical way of doing things.
And for you, Neeraj?
I would say Nandan Nilekani for not just Infosys, but then what he did with Aadhaar and India Stack, and has played an instrumental role in shaping the technology architecture, which is very frugal, but so world-class.
Binny, so if you were a student today, what's one subject or skill that you would love to master?
I think today it's about mastering. I think I would sort of look at mastering 2-3. I think a mix of 2-3 sort of different skills. Definitely, I think a bit of technology and a bit of this psychology, and maybe a bit of history.
And for you, Harish?
I'm an engineer by training, so I should be saying AI, but I think it's beyond my reach in this lifetime. So I would say history. I would love to be better formally educated in history.
And for you, Neeraj?
So my dad always believed if you knew maths and English, you're sorted for life. I think maths and English still matters, and I would add history to it. I think because that teaches you the arc of time and learning over a long-range time frame. Yeah, so that would be my top 3. But then connecting the dots across them.
Yeah, I think that's my takeaway. So being interdisciplinary is, I think, far more valuable in this day and age now. So, Binny, what's one big shift in higher education that you expect to see in the next 10 years across the masses in India?
I think this idea of flexibility, that I think as students will have a lot of choice of where to go, and within where they go, how to really shape their education journey. I think with institutes like Plaksha and with technology like AI, I think it will sort of enable students to really discover their way through college much better than what we had.
So I think the realization that life is real, in the real world, it's far more nuanced, far more uncertainties exist. So it's not enough to have a linear way of learning. I think you need to move also horizontally, taking many subjects in your stride, and only then will you understand a situation in its real form.
So I fully resonate firstly with what Binny and Harish have said. I think learning how to learn, one thing we've doodled about, and Rudra Pratap and I talk about it often, is what if we had a 2-year program and allow students then to go explore the world and come back as they want later to add on. It has not been done before, but I think even the undergrad may need to be reimagined in this new world. I know it's something bold we're talking about. We have been talking about it for a year plus. Let's see, when we embark.
I just want to add one more line to it. I think today's learning is not just what to learn, but also how to learn.
Yeah.
So the ability to learn basically at large. So because we don't know what's relevant after 5 years, right? So the ability to pick things from scratch and then just double click into it, I think is far more valuable now. Okay, so one piece of advice, Binny, for students looking to thrive in an AI-driven future.
One piece of advice, I think, be nimble, I guess, and flexible.
And for you, Harish?
Be innovative, be bold, be patient.
My instinct is deep expertise. I don't know, the jury's still out. Some of it may get outsourced to the technology, but connecting the dots across different disciplines of expertise is something which students should aspire to. So I think integrative skills across many disciplines is something which I would, so breadth, with obviously understanding of depth, but breadth.
So just to culminate our conversation, if you had to describe Plaksha University in one word, what would it be?
I think best startup in education.
In one word.
Or a statement,
Phrase.
if you may.
I think young, aspiring, and ambitious.
And from you, Neeraj?
Reimagining, going where no one has gone before.
How bold and how nice. It was a pleasure having you today. Congratulations on the fundraise, and looking forward to seeing Plaksha become one of the most talked about universities in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.